Hey class, welcome to week 6 of the course. We only have a few more weeks left to go, so I hope you're plugging away because we have quite a few points left actually. So let's go ahead and get started and let you know what we have going on this week. You will be doing your informative speeches this week. You will be posting an outline for that informative speech. So that's 150 points right there. You'll be doing a peer review sheet where you're going to be peer reviewing one of your peers in their informative speech, so that's another 15 points. And then the other 10 points this week comes from your weekly group posts for your movie that you've selected. So at this point in time, you should have already selected your movie, you should have already selected the theme, and this week you're going to be choosing 3 to 5 bold-faced words specifically out of the textbook using the interpersonal unit. And I also want you to keep in mind that your posts to your group members need to be 3 to 5 sentences in length with well thought out, ideas and intellectual thought behind it. And if anything, if you're communicating via email, that's quite all right. But go ahead and it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to copy and paste those emails into the group discussion board just so that I can see that progress is being made. Now also use this week to bounce ideas off of each other and help each other out with specific examples that you could use in your papers. So that's all you have to do this week, but I wanted to highlight some things for your informative speech and your outline. Now, that informative speech that I had all of you grade that sample one, I probably would have given it myself around a 90 to 92, around an A- probably on that speech. Now, that was a competition, so that was a very much rehearsed speech. Yours will not be like that, and I do not expect you all to wear, 3-piece suits or anything like that. Just steer clear from pajamas and look presentable. Don't make it look like you rolled out of bed or anything, and show that you're prepared to give a 4 to 6 minute speech. You still need a visual aid. That student in the video, he number one, he did it kind of like in a memorized fashion, so you won't be using your outline to present, but you will be using the information that's on your outline to present, as far as like taking that information and putting it on note cards, and you can use note cards and delivering in a conversational manner. Now we're going to be delivering in an extemporaneous fashion, which essentially means using your note cards, putting keywords on there, and delivering in that conversational way. That student was clearly memorized, so you don't have to do it like that. And his visual aid kind of was distracting at times. There were some times where he looked like he was actually talking to the screen, and that clicker thing he had got kind of distracting every once in a while. Now you'll still need a visual aid for your speech, but it's up to you how you're going to incorporate that in there. You'll still need 3 to 5 people as far as an audience, so you can take your camera or however you can work it out to where you pan over the audience before you present your information. Now, if you have any questions about that, you can let me know. And as far as the outline is concerned, please look at that sample outline that I've posted as a template or guideline for you. It just helps you organize your thoughts in a well thought out manner, and you're going to have to identify your general purpose, which is going to be either to inform, to persuade, or to entertain. There's only 3 types of general purposes you can use. Now, you should know what your general purpose is for this speech. But if you have questions about what that means, that should be in chapter, I think it's, I forget what chapter it's in, but it's on your outline. It'll give you the page number to reference. If you have questions about writing a specific purpose statement, I put the page number on there for you. I think it's around page 220 or something like that, 221. And then you also need to identify your organizational pattern. Now, it seems to about half the class struggled with this a little bit, and that was identifying organizational patterns. So you need to really reference chapter 13. There are 5 types of organizational patterns that can be used for the speeches that we're talking about. Now, problem solution, that's typically used for your persuasive speeches. So there's problem solution, causal, which is like cause and effect pattern, and then you have topic, you have spatial, and then you have time. So there's 5 that the book references in chapter 13. There's also a video about them. So if you have questions about that, let me know. But I'm likely to go ahead and reference you to those pages, but I can spell it out in an email if you need me to. And also, so in the beginning, you'll have the introduction which the introduction is composed of what's called an orientation phase. Now, the orientation phase pretty much just orients you to your audience, the topic to your audience and your main points. Now, the first thing of the orientation phase is going to be, or your introduction, is going to be your attention-getting device. Now, your attention getter is going to be one of four things. It's a narrative, which is like a brief story, like, maybe like a 20 to 30 second story, if that, a quotation, a rhetorical question, or a startling statement. So I want you to use one of those four things for your attention-getting device. And then you have to relate your topic to your audience somehow. So that's audience adaptation. So you have to give us a reason to listen. How does this topic affect us? Why do we want to listen to you? Then you have to state your credibility. How are you a credible source? Like, did you do your research? Or do you have personal experience with your topic? It's a lot easier to listen to a speaker when they are very credible about what they're speaking about. So you have to state why you're a credible source of information. And then the last thing you state in your introduction is in that orientation phase, which is your introduction, is your thesis statement and then the preview statement. Now, the preview statement, your thesis statement is the central message of your speech, and your thesis, your preview statement comes right after, and it's going to say, okay, first I'm going to talk about this, second this, and finally this. You want to make sure you put those, the preview statement in the main points in the order that you're going to talk about them in your speech. Don't get them out of order. They have to flow in the order that you're going to give your speech. So then you'll have a transition statement, which is like, okay, first, now, you got to bring your points together. You have to say, okay, now let's go ahead and move on to my first point. And you go into your body where, you'll have your first main point. You talk about it, you cite your sources, you're going to have 5 verbally cited sources for this speech, 3 of which have to be different types. Okay, so use credible research. If you're confused about what credible means, email me and I can check your sources for you, okay? So, but for every main point in your speech, you have to have at least one credible source. All right, so maybe since you have to have 5 and you have to have 3 main points, you'll have 2 credible sources in your first main point, 2 credible sources in your second main point, and maybe 1 credible source in your third main point. But you have to have 5. You can't have a main point and not have a credible source of information to back it up. Otherwise, it just seems to be like your opinion, and you have to have sources to back up even if it is an opinion, you have to have something to back it up. So between each main point, you're going to have transition sentences linking that information together. So you're saying, okay, now that I've talked about this, let me tell you about this. So you have to review your last point and preview your next point. That's what transitions do. Then after your third main point, transition into what's called your transitional summary, where you're restating your main points again. It's going to seem very redundant, but that is the only way your audience is going to remember what you've said. Okay, so by the time your audience walks away, we are going to know exactly what your 3 main points were and what your topic was. So transitional summary, restate your 3 main points, and then go into your concluding device, which is your final thought. Now you can use a quotation or, some cool question to leave the audience just thinking like, what if, something like that, so that we know you've come to an end. The last thing you want your audience to do is to think to ourselves like, okay, are they done? And have an awkward pause. You also don't want to show your visual aid after your conclusion, because that's not a quality, wrap up. So we have to know when you're ending. You also don't want to have any new information or any new research in your conclusion. That only goes in the body. All right, so it's kind of like writing a paper with the intro, body, and conclusion, but just look at that guideline, that sample outline on Blackboard under the assignments tab, and you'll be able to get a good idea of how it's supposed to go. Excuse me. But let me know if you have any questions, and I'll help you with that. I know our assignments, our speeches, I'm going to have you upload them to YouTube like we did your first introduction speeches. So I'll give you the guidelines of how to do that again. But I know our assignments are always due on Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, but it might be a good idea to get your videos, your speeches uploaded by maybe Friday by midnight or so this week, so that everybody can get an opportunity to peer review at least one person's speech, okay? The last thing, I know when I was a student, I always got my assignments done really early, and then I was waiting on most of the class to go ahead and post their things the last day so I could comment and stuff, and I would get nervous that I wouldn't get to respond in time. So just help each other out. That's all I'm asking, and pick whoever's you want to peer review. It doesn't matter. So you got the speech, you got the outline, you got the peer review. Your outline and your peer review we'll go ahead and submit via Safe Assign on Blackboard. I'll have a spot for those. And again, with the weekly discussion, group posting. Oh, one other thing. I've also posted some controversial topics under the persuasive speech assignment, under the assignment tab. And I also want you to go ahead and give me your persuasive speech topic this week. You're not going to do a prep sheet like you did for your informative speech because we're kind of beyond that now. But go ahead and get your persuasive speech topic selected, and it doesn't have to be from that list if you don't want it to be, but just let me know kind of what you're thinking, and I'll go ahead and get those approved this week so that you can start on those next week. And as far as the sample outline that I posted, I'm going to be emailing you all with the graded sample outline. There were quite a few errors. So go ahead and look at my corrections so that you don't make the same problems. And I already went over that sample speech with you all as far as giving it around a 90 or 92 and where kind of some distractions were and where he would have got points taken away. So, but I thought he did do well on the oral citations. One thing you want to remember about those oral citations is you really need to say, according to, John Costas from ESPN or whatever the case may be. You don't want to state a fact and say, 1 in 10 high school students take steroids, John Costas. Like, you don't want to say it at the end. So you have to make sure it stands out and that it's easy to identify. Again, you need 5, 3 of which have to be different, and you have to make sure you state them clearly when you're speaking. So I think that's it for now. I'll see y'all next week, but I'll probably be emailing you. I think I probably get better response when I email versus putting an announcement on Blackboard. So I think I'm just going to be emailing you all when I need to give you any information. But I'll continue to do the weekly announcements via video, and I'll go ahead and post one every Monday. But let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to help. I'll talk to you later. See ya. Bye-bye.